Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at a team guide for Bayern Munich, and you can probably guess it's going to be one of the shortest team guides we do because Bayern Munich's team is already so good and so balanced. Because they don't have too many young players on the actual Bayern Munich squad, a lot of them are in Bayern Munich's second squad, you won't find too many players dragging down the average. If we put my spreadsheet on the screen quickly, you can see that the only real outlier here is right back. At right back they have Sarr and Pavard, who are both decent players, and Pavard still has some room to grow at 24 years old, but you almost certainly will want an improvement here unless you decide to move Kimmich back to right back. Every other position that Bayern Munich have is pretty well balanced. In goal you have Neuer and Nübel, and despite Nübel not having the best overall at the moment, he's still young so has the room to improve. You have two already good left backs with even more potential to grow in Davies and Hernandez. You have four centre backs, although Alaba looks certain to leave this summer, but Süle, Boateng and Kouassi all are good enough at the moment. Tanguy Kouassi might not be starter level yet, but if you loan him out for a couple of seasons, his potential is better than any other centre back you have. There's so much talent on the wings that it's almost unbelievable, with Gnabry, Sané, Koeman and loanee Douglas Costa all more than good enough to win a Bundesliga title. And your three centre midfield positions at centre defensive mid, regular CM and Cam all looking decent too. Although at CDM, Marc Roca doesn't have the ability yet, his potential's good. Javi Martinez might be old, but he's still performing at the top of his ability. And of course, Kimmich is probably one of the top three centre defensive mids in the whole world. Slightly further forward at CM, you've got Tolisso and Goretzka, who are both really good on FIFA, although they might not be the best in real life. They're both amazing box-to-box midfielders on FIFA. And then one position where you don't have too much cover is centre attacking midfield, where you're going to have to use Thomas Müller most of the time, although Jamal Musiala is going to have the potential to be just as good as Müller is now if you can give him some game time. Of course, the striker position is one that's dominated by Robert Lewandowski, who's probably the best striker in the world at the moment, although Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting is also pretty good, although he's obviously not at the same level as some of your other starters. If you're thinking about adding some new players to the squad, they're mostly going to be backups. You might want to think about finding a new replacement goalkeeper, because Neuer is 34, so he probably only has 3 or 4 more seasons at the top of his game. The same is true for Lewandowski, and although he is very naturally fit, he's 32 years old, so you probably can expect him to decline in the next 2 or 3 seasons. These are two areas that I would focus on signing a backup young player quite quickly, just so that they're ready when you need them to step in. The same can be found in centre-back, where Boateng isn't going to be that good for many more seasons, so you'll be stuck with Alaba and Süle until you can get Kouassi to develop. This will give you 3 centre-backs and one of them won't be ready, so if there's an injury, you'll either be playing a 70 rated player as centre-back, or a quite old Jerome Boateng instead. I would focus on signing a backup striker, a backup centre-back and a backup goalkeeper if I was you. So I'll quickly give you some suggestions of who you could sign in each of these positions. Starting at striker, which is probably the most exciting position to sign a player, you have the obvious choice of replacing your ex-Dortmund striker with the current Dortmund striker Erling Haaland. Of course, he would cost a lot of money, but it's definitely something that Bayern Munich have done in the past. It's kind of a double win for Bayern because they both strengthen themselves while weakening their biggest rival in the league, so it's a transfer that you could do if you're that desperate for a striker. Of course, he'll want game time, and with a 4-2-3-1 that Bayern Munich like to play, you'll probably still want to play Lewandowski over him unless you can try and force him into a 2-striker formation. If Timo Werner's downward trajectory keeps continuing, you might be able to pick him up cheap to be your backup striker too. But more realistically, you should probably go for one of the second level talents in world football at the moment, just someone like a Lacazette or a Richarlison or a Volland maybe. Of course, with Lewandowski, this player won't be playing that much, so you just need someone who can step in off the bench and make an impact when Lewandowski's injured or tired. Moving back into defence, you're going to want a new first choice right back in my opinion. Of course, you could move Kimmich back here and buy a centre defensive mid instead, but it might be worth trying to flex Bayern Munich's financial muscles, and maybe you can try and steal one of Leipzig's centre-back, right-back, centre defensive mid players that they like to create. Someone like a Nordi Mukiele, Klostermann, even a Konrad Leiner could come in and be first choice right back for you. Personally, I would go for Klostermann, but that's simply because he can also cover centre-back with his height, and he's one of the fastest right-backs on the game. If you don't feel like going out and spending big on a right-back, of course Süle and Kimmich can both play there, as well as Pavard still having some potential to grow into, and Sarr being a decent backup. It's not a necessity to improve at right-back, but it's something you might want to do, just because there's so few areas that you can improve the Bayern Munich squad. Preparing to replace Neuer is one of the most tricky things you can do. Of course, he plays in such a unique style with the ball at his feet that it is quite integral in the way that Bayern Munich play. So the replacement needs to play in a similar way too. You need someone who can play with the ball at his feet, but is also an amazing shot stopper and just an all-round character at the back to help unify the defence. You could wait for him to retire and then splash the cash on someone like Donnarumma, or you can try and develop someone like Martin van der Voort from Genk while he's still young. But on FIFA this year, there are unfortunately very few goalkeepers who are young and have the same kind of passing ability as Neuer. Ter Stegen is the only goalkeeper with better passing, and of course he is German as well as being 6 years younger, so he could definitely be the answer post Neuer. But personally, I would either go for the previously mentioned Martin van der Voort or Dominik Livakovic from Dinamo Zagreb. So that's my quick overview of where Bayern Munich could strengthen. Of course, there's very few positions where they could, but that's just what comes with being the best team in the world on paper. If you've spotted a place that I haven't that they could strengthen, for example maybe you don't like using Thomas Müller as centre attacking midfield, or maybe me and some of my subscribers can suggest some transfers for that position. Anyway, thank you for watching this far, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers and bye.